Huh? What's up, Ayla? Can I see Noah, just once? As she opened her mouth hesitantly, Ophelia looked at her daughter with a slightly surprised expression. Of course, Ophelia planned to introduce Ayla to Noah, but she thought she must be tired from the long trip, so she wanted to give her a rest first. It was a little unexpected that Ayla wanted to leave her long-awaited break and meet her little brother. Still, it felt good. It was understandable that her younger brother's presence felt strange, but it was also admirable that she was the first to approach and see him. Of course, there's no reason not to. Ophelia responded with a bright smile. When Ayla and her parents went to her brother's room, Noah was sleeping. It was inevitable since he spent most of the day sleeping, but he was sad that he couldn't see his younger brother open his eyes and move actively. Still, just watching him sleep like an angel filled Ayla with an indescribable emotion. How could it be so small? She had never seen a newborn like this, neither in her past life nor in this one, having spent her entire life wandering with Byron. It was amazing. It felt quite strange that something as small as a doll was breathing, gasping. At first glance, it was difficult to find any resemblance to him, since his hair was black, like his father's, but upon closer inspection, the shape of his face and nose were similar, as if looking in a mirror. It was really amazing to see something like her in that little face. It's really amazing. Clearly, Noah had never existed in a past life. It seemed mysterious to him that this unborn life had been born thanks to his return to the past. I couldn't understand what had gone wrong to make this happen. I want to see you with your eyes open. When Ayla whispered so as not to wake her sleeping brother, Roderick responded with a soft smile on his serious face. She has purple eyes, like your mother's. You wouldn't believe how beautiful they are when the light hits them. Black hair and purple eyes. Although it was the complete opposite of Ayla, who had silver hair and blue eyes, he somehow felt a tickle in his heart. It seemed like he had inherited his parents' traits and shared them with his younger brother. It must be really nice. Ayla smiled brightly and looked at her sleeping brother. The image of him sleeping with his mouth open, dreaming of eating something. My goodness, look at how damaged your hair is. How did you do it while I was gone? Laura, who was doing Ayla's hair, grumbled at the top of her lungs. He said that if he continued like this, his master would be disappointed. Still, Ayla shrugged, sinking into the gentle bubble bath. What could disappoint Byron, who wasn't even there, about her hair? I can't do anything. My father said that if a mountain girl had hair that was too soft, they would be suspicious. As Ayla responded by sinking deeper into the warm water, Laura scrunched up her face. It was really strange. It's not that what she said was wrong, but Ayla's attitude towards her seemed a little different than before. By the way, why did you do that before? What did I do? When you met the Duchess. There was no need to be so exaggerated. He shed tears of joy, as if he had really met his biological parents. Of course he knew them, but it was excessive too. Assume that he acted as if he didn't know them. What else dissatisfies you? And at Laura's slap, Ayla made a face of disbelief. Thank goodness Laura was behind her, unable to see her expression. When she met Roderick and Ophelia in her previous life, Ayla felt immensely happy, not knowing that they were her biological parents. Although she knew she had to do it to realistically fool them, she was not used to acting and ended up hesitating. And how angry she was with Laura, who followed Roderick and Ophelia to the Herzog estate. He got angry and said, "What can I do if you can't act like that? The atmosphere became awkward because of you." It would have been more natural for him to hug her and cry, and he even showed off his acting skills in front of her. Of course, it wasn't acting, he was sincere, but anyway, in this life, he did what Laura wanted in her previous life. But this time, he said it was too much. It was frustrating not knowing what to do. Laura just wanted to criticize everything he did. so it was uncomfortable? I did my best to act naturally. It's not that, but... Laura hesitated at Ayla's excuse. It certainly wasn't unnatural, so he couldn't say anything. Although it was a scene that delighted the family's enemies, it was so moving that even she, the observer, was briefly moved to tears. Then why did you say you wanted to see the baby? Laura asked another question that had been bothering her. In any case, it was a life that would eventually be lost in Ayla's hands. Even if he became attached, it would only interfere with his work. But Ayla even took the initiative to go see Noah. I heard that I have a younger brother. Of course you'd want to see it, right? If I were really Ayla hailing Weishafen. I thought so, and I acted judiciously. That way, the Duke and Duchess wouldn't be suspicious. When Ayla responded naturally, Laura couldn't help but shut up this time. After hearing it, it seemed like a plausible idea. I didn't know you were such a good actress, Laura said with a hollow laugh. I felt like I had seen a new side of Ayla that I didn't know about. All this is to avenge my father. I have to do this. He shrugged and responded. To avenge my father. It wasn't a lie. Only his father was Roderick, not Byron. To avenge his biological father, whom he had to kill with his own hands in his past life. To avenge herself, who had been completely exploited. Miss, have you fallen asleep yet? Laura asked in a high-pitched voice, watching Ayla sleep. It was still a little early to sleep, but she had fallen asleep as soon as she finished washing and drying her hair. It seemed like the trip had been quite exhausting. His fortune had really grown. Laura frowned at the four-poster bed and its pale pink lace curtains. The room was filled with things a young noblewoman would want. It was a room filled with a display case full of girl-shaped porcelain dolls, every wrinkle delicately drawn, and soft-furred stuffed animals, and each piece of furniture had been carefully selected to be pretty and adorable. It was hard to believe that all this had been prepared in just a few days. And among all those beautiful things, Laura felt jealous. A life surrounded by only beautiful and good things, under the care of loving parents. If it weren't for the Knights of Roderick, he wouldn't have had to live a life of betrayal and persecution, and if he had, he would have enjoyed everything he deserved. As a daughter of a noble family. Although the Eyre family was not a high-ranking noble family, it was a Viscounty known for producing quite a few knights. If only her father hadn't fallen for that betrayal and died, she could have enjoyed what Ayla enjoys now. That's why Laura hated Roderick. She hated that he took away the father who would have loved her, and now he gives his daughter so much love. Although Laura sometimes thought that perhaps this would not have happened if her father, Bayfold, had not joined Byron's rebellion, she tried to ignore it. She hated Roderick so much that she couldn't stand him without tormenting Ayla. He looked at the sleeping Ayla and wiped away her tears. Thinking about his father made him cry. Living alone in her enemy's house, away from her mother, seemed exhausting. Capella was a strict mother, so if she knew she was crying like that, she would definitely scold her. It said, "You've grown up a lot, but you still act like a girl in your 20s. Laura sniffed and wiped away her tears as she remembered her mother scolding her, telling her not to get carried away with unnecessary sentimentality and to only think about avenging her family. The sleeping girl isn't going anywhere, is she? Anyway, her room was in a place that she had to pass through to get out of there, so if Ayla moved, she would know. He also wanted to go to bed early that night. And after Laura left the room, Ayla, who had pretended to sleep with her eyes closed for a moment, carefully got up. Why are you crying? Who really wants to cry? Ayla, who had pretended to be asleep but was awake, heard Laura crying at the top of her lungs and felt a strange sense of relief. It would be easier to blame someone so ruthless that even if you stabbed him, he wouldn't bleed a drop. If he showed such weakness, wouldn't she become weaker as well? Furthermore, with Cloud's help, she could safely enter this place. And he even received a plea, "Please forgive Laura." He stood in the dark room for a while, blankly, wondering if Laura, who was gone, would return. As time passed and when Laura was about to fall asleep, she got out of bed. It was time to go to their parents and tell them what intrigued them.